What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Thursday edition of On Cue. I'm your host, as always, Rich Quinones. There's a lot of NBA play-in, playoffs, injuries, betting scandals, a lot of stuff to dive in with the association starting to really come into play. What's going on with this NBA season? The stretch run. Jonathan Marshall does a great job covering the NBA and hoops, and of course, sports reporter and anchor at WMUR. Give him a follow on X at John_Marshall3. Kind enough to join us for a couple moments on this Thursday. Jonathan, how are you, my friend?
What's going on, Q? Best time of the year.
Well, I saw last night, I don't know if you were doing the reverse mush with the Sixers right now. All of a sudden, Embiid wakes up in that second half. I mean, look, you get some role players to step up, unsung heroes. That's a bad, injury for Jimmy Butler and Miami. I, I mean, look, the Sixers now, they'll face my Knicks, and Miami's clinging on for dear life. They got one more opportunity to try to notch up that eighth seed. Against the Bulls. We saw what's going on with Atlanta. Listen, there's a lot of I guess you can say question marks surrounding a lot of teams in the NBA, but I just thought last night I thought it was going to be like a 35-16 type of game for Joel Embiid. He's obviously still banged up. He's still rusty. We kind of know that. So I hate this matchup for the Knicks, to be quite honest, because there's no Julius Randle. You're going to have the primary, the bulk of the scoring is going to fall in the hands of Jalen Brunson. And the one thing about the Sixers is now the Knicks have played them well and beat them this season. But the one thing about the Sixers, you get a healthy, engaged Embiid. If he's on the floor 30 plus odd minutes, he's giving them 30, 35 plus. And then you throw in the Maxi and then some of the role players. Man, I just, too many horses for the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, the big factor is if Embiid is engaged, if he's healthy, if he's really the Embiid that we've been seeing pre-injury, then obviously the Knicks have no answer for that, right? You mentioned Jalen Brunson for the Knicks. It's outside of a Jalen Brunson, who else is the creator on that team, right? With the Sixers, you have an Embiid, you have a Maxi, right? And you have other guys who can fill in their roles, like we saw Batum did. We've seen Kelly Oubre step up. We see Buddy Hield knocking down shots. For the Knicks, you're going to put too much emphasis on Jalen Brunson trying to carry the load. He's
Yeah,
a great
that's,
player, having a
yeah.
great season, but at his size, with Julius Randle not being out there, I mean, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, OG, these are really good players, right? But these aren't guys that you give the rock to and say, we need a bucket right here in these moments. And that's where the Knicks are going to find some issues in this series, I think. But I'm not going to look past them, though. This is a
Well,
team that plays hard, right?
yeah.
And if
But
Embiid is struggling with his conditioning and his knee at moments, that's something to look at.
Yeah, but the thing is with the Knicks, you're going to have uh, now with no Randall predicated on the guards trying to at least attack the tin and get to the free throw line. And at least when you can draw that double team, you got opportunities to kick it out. I mean, now you take Randall out of the equation, even if he's down on the low block, just the threat of him around the rim and a rim protector, a rebounder, you lose that, right? It's not about the 18, 20 points. And I get it. Listen, I wouldn't say he's an all-time great, Nick. I wouldn't. He's been a very good player for a long time in the NBA. He's hit or miss. He's sporadic. He's an enigma. But when you get the better portion of him, right, the good Julius Randle, he's going to give you 20 and 15, 20 and 16, and he's going to gut it out and grind it out. Um, I can't rely on DiVincenzo to go 6 of 8 from beyond the arc, right? The role players, Thibodeau. I mean, we talked about this running these guys in the ground with the minutes, guys averaging 35, 35, 36, 37, 38. Look, they grinded it out, 50 wins, 10th time they've done that in franchise history. I still think they're going to give the Sixers a fight. I just think it's a bad matchup because the spacing on the floor with the Sixers when Embiid's on the floor healthy, it just opens things up. And Maxi has shown that he is I mean, we can say he's a rising star. I mean, but he's capable of putting up 35 if Embiid has a bad night? Who's capable of putting up 35 if now Brunson has a bad night?
Right. Yeah, I mean that's the only question mark with these Knicks, right? Brunson has to carry so much of an offensive load. By the end of it, how much is he going to have left, right? And if he's having an off night, can you count on him to drop 30 and 40 every night in this series, right? And who else can you rely on to say, okay, we need you to create. You need to lessen the load on the Brunson, and it's just not there. Nice pieces. You love the Villanova guys, right? And you love an OG. He's a really nice young player, but these aren't offensive threats outside of Brunson creating opportunities for them or hustle plays, right? With the Sixers, Embiid and Maxey in this series, if they're playing at their best, that is enough. And they also have Nick Nurse as their head coach now, so I
Yep.
trust them now. The
Yep.
Sixers, with Doc Rivers, they lose that game last night.
Yeah, 100%, especially they don't make that run, right? I mean, when Miami's making the run, Doc probably, when the Sixers are making a run, Doc probably calls a timeout to kind of kill the momentum. That's what he does. Tough loss for the Heat. Jimmy Butler, they've got an opportunity to get it back for the AFC playing game against the Bulls tomorrow. Kings and Pelicans, no Zion. Uh, this is what happens, man. I mean, Milwaukee with Giannis, I still believe it's an offensive league. We know they don't play defense, but Boston to me in the Eastern Conference, look, that Magic Cleveland series be entertaining. Suns Timberwolves probably entertaining, but to me, when I look at the Boston Celtics, I just look at this team with Tatum, Brown. Let's not forget Porzingis, who's kind of turned back the clock, right? He's quietly put together a really nice season for the Boston Celtics. I just think they have too much depth. And look, maybe they do meet the Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals. That loss right now with Giannis banged up from Milwaukee. I mean, Indiana has an opportunity to upset the apple cart here. And it's just crazy to think that Milwaukee was, I think, 30-13 and they fired their head coach, right? And now I mean, I don't know. Tatum and Brown, it's a shooter's league. If they go cold like we saw last year, they're going to be in trouble. But I just think top to bottom, they're the strongest team to come out of the East.
You're looking at the setup now, the Celtics have to make the finals, right?
They have to, or it's a choke job.
You last year, okay, that's whatever. But this year, Milwaukee, even with Giannis, there were question marks. And now Giannis's health is compromised. Joel Embiid's health is compromised. I mean, you look at the competition, Miami, which is probably like your arch nemesis, and how you haven't been able to get around them over the
Yep.
last couple of years, right? Jimmy Butler's done. So a lot of Celtics fans were worried about playing the Heat. You don't have to worry about that anymore. Even if you do play them, Jimmy's not there. And so if you cannot make a finals run this year, I don't know what to tell you. And so the biggest thing is with the Celtics is looking at Joe Mazzulla. That was a question mark last year. How is he going to do with in-game adjustments, handling timeouts, handling things with inside the game, and mentally? Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, when it matters most in those crunch time moments, are you going to give the ball away? Are you going to make shots? Are you going to settle for the jumper? Or are you going to attack? These are the things that
They need to attack.
they
They need
need
to
to
attack.
attack.
They need to attack.
Tatum especially settles way too much. I
Yep.
don't
Got to
know
put the
what
ball
it
on the
is.
floor.
I don't know what it is with him, but you have the size. You're not a super, he's not like an elite athlete, but he's a good enough athlete to do what it has to be done when attacking, right? And so for Jason Tatum, especially, if you want to be considered this MVP candidate, you have to rise above.
Hmm.
He has to do it this year. You have to. You have the pieces. Derek White, Drew Holiday,
Drew
Kristaps
Holiday. Yep.
Porzingis. Like this team is set the best starting five in the NBA. And if you can't make an Eastern Conference championship run this year, I don't know when you're going to do it.
No, and listen, I know that Holiday and White are day to day, but you mentioned Brown, Tatum, Porzingis. Then you got some veterans to back up. I mean, you still got guys that are going out there that are trying to give them minutes, that are trying to give them a little bit. I mean, listen, Horford, he's a veteran guy, right? You know, come off the bench, give me 10 minutes, give me
Right.
energy, right?
Right.
Try to foul out whomever, bang with Embiid. If Randall was out there, bang with Randall. And then you mentioned the ultimate disappointment. I think anytime you win 60 something plus games, I mean, Boston Celtics, their home record's ridiculous. I'm not going to equate it to 84, where I think they only lost one game at home. They were unbelievable. That team was wall to wall Hall of Famers. It's always the if not when for the Boston Celtics. And, Milwaukee, if Giannis is healthy, it's a different animal. I'm curious to get your take. I saw you tweeted this out. I feel as though the Atlanta Hawks, it's just time to move away from Trae Young. Like their makeup, the roster building, uh, it's just a team. They peaked a couple years ago, right? And I just look at their depth. I mean, you ask a regular basketball fan, name me two or three guys on the Atlanta Hawks. They're not going to be able to do that. I mean, you need that 1-2 punch in the NBA across the board. Even with Randall out with the Knicks, it's still Randall and Brunson. You need that 1-2 punch. Atlanta doesn't have, just my thought, that 1-2 punch, right? I mean, Trey Young is a type of player where he just wants to go out and he wants to get his. Now, Murray, nice role player. Okay, fine. But again, I look at this team. I don't like their makeup. I don't like their roster. I can see this team being as bad as, say, Washington next year. Just kind of spitting the bit. Where are you at right now with the Hawks and that franchise going forward?
Yeah, it's funny for a lot of these franchises, you can sort of forecast where they'll be 2 years from now.
Mhm.
I'm glad you mentioned Washington because this is like the Wizard situation with Bradley Bill and John Wall, right? Talented backcourt, but you just couldn't. You saw the ceiling. You saw what the ceiling was, and this is a case of a team possibly holding on too long. The Bulls are in the same situation, but the Hawks. The question to me, the question isn't should we trade Trey or DeJounte? DeJounte for me, everybody should be on the table at this point. Like,
Mhm.
what are you building toward? I don't think they even know. They're just throwing darts at the wall and hoping something sticks, right? Jalen Johnson is a really nice young player. I would probably keep him because he showed a major growth this year. But outside of that, what other pieces do you have that you can build upon and say, we're building something for the future? I don't think they know. And so for me, the question is, how do we rebuild this in a way that we can have a solid foundation? Because the foundation at this point isn't there. You're wasting away a Trey Young and a DeJounte Murray because with them together, your ceiling is the play-in at this point. So why are you wasting another year of the same cycle?
Yeah.
Like it's a waste of time for me. And so I know Trey Young is the franchise player. He's the superstar point guard. What's the use of keeping him if you're not building a solid team around him?
Yeah.
It's no
Yeah.
point. So why
Yeah.
not offload it, see what you can get back, and go from there? But it's a waste of time.
No, listen, it's an excellent point. Injuries coming at a bad time for certain teams. I mentioned no Zion. Kings are laying 1.5. I think out of the Western Conference, I mean, it's a stacked conference. We know that. Timberwolves had an outstanding season, 56 wins. The Suns were 1 win shy of 50. But as crazy as it sounds, Denver's still Denver. But man, we talk about 1-2 punches. Wouldn't it be something if Luka and Kyrie just made this deep run for the Dallas Mavericks? Like, I know it's kind of cliche when we say it in the NFL. Hey, you don't want to see that team get into the playoffs. They're a hot team. They're on a roll. They won 4 out of 5. Here they go. But I feel that way about the Dallas Mavericks.
No, I mean Kyrie and Luca individually themselves can carry a series for a couple of games, right? They can give teams a hard long series. And so you have those two together with those role players that they've brought along, Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington, two great pickups at the deadline, right? And so they're dangerous. Luca to me, I mean, we've seen Luca do it without a Kyrie in the playoffs, right? We've seen the damage that he can do in the playoff series. And so they're playing a Clippers team that they have question marks with the Paul
Yeah.
George, with the James Harden, right? You don't know which player is going to
Which
show
one's
up
going to
at
show up?
exactly. And so, and Luka Doncic, what we do know is he does not care who you are. He is going to go to work. Oh, we have Kyrie to lessen the load as well.
Mm,
To me, I wouldn't want to play that backcourt
yeah.
because they can be 40 and 50 in any given moment. The role guys, they know what their role is and they do it well. And so Dallas, that's a wild card right there.
You give the Lakers a puncher's chance against Denver?
No.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not going to say they're going to get swept. Denver plays so the way Denver has a consistent style of basketball that I don't think the Lakers are ready to match. The Lakers are to me are too sometimesy, if I can say that word. Like they have those flashes of greatness. We're like, okay, when AD is locked in, LeBron is LeBron, and D'Lo is playing, Rui, Austin Reeves, like this makes sense when they're at their best.
Yeah.
But for certain moments when Darvin Ham, there's questionable coaching decisions, lineup decisions. There's certain moments where Anthony Davis is even in the game. Is his body going to be ready? Right? And how much load can LeBron carry? If Zion didn't get hurt, it's a whole different conversation, possibly,
Agree.
right? And so their margin of error against the Denver Nuggets team is so low.
Yeah. Slim
And
to none.
it's slim to none,
Yeah, you
right?
can't
And
rely
so
on LeBron shooting 35 plus times and logging 35 plus minutes in a long series. You just
man,
can't. Um,
And Denver's going to exploit those mental lapses that the Lakers have, and they have them. They're inconsistent. This is the reason why they're a playing team, because you losing to the Chicago's and the San Antonio's back in December. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why you're in the playing, because you're not consistent.
yeah.
The inconsistent teams are in the playing. That's
You
what it's
you
for.
like you like Boston and Denver coming out respectively, East Western
I
Conference?
would I would say so. I mean, these are the to me, these are the most proven, the most talented teams to me. Um, Looking at Denver, obviously the Western Conference would be a tougher journey for them, having to play the Lakers first round. Minnesota and OKC, they're young, so we'll see what they have. Dallas is a problem. Who knows if Phoenix and KD and Booker and Bill, maybe they have one last fight in them
I
this
feel
go
like
round.
we've been saying that for years
Yeah,
with Phoenix,
exactly.
right?
Right. But it's hard for me to go against Denver and the Joker. It's just proven they've done it. Yeah, I can't go against
It
that.
it shows you just how bad the Eastern Conference is. You know,
Yeah,
Boston won 64 games. The
yeah,
Knicks won 50. You look at the
yeah,
Western Conference, you got five teams that are winning 50 plus games. OKC, Denver, Minnesota, the Lakers, I'm sorry, the Clippers,
yeah.
Dallas, and Phoenix was 49 and
Mm.
33. So point being, if you're Boston, man, you won 64 games, you got to win the championship. I'm sorry.
That you have to. Like you at the least make the finals, right? Because Denver is Denver. You'll see how that shakes out, right? But you have to win the Eastern Conference Championship. You have too much money tied up into Jaylen Brown. You're going to give Tatum so much money coming up soon. You just gave Drew Holiday an extension. Porzingis and Derek White are about to get paid soon. Like, so it's yeah, it's now. You have to,
Yeah.
like, your window is the next couple years. Like, you have to get it done.
What's your take on this whole Porter situation here
Mhm.
with the gambling? I mean, I know when it came about, I think we talked about it a little bit, but here's a player, and I threw this question, kind of got the crickets, put it on Facebook, got some response to it, but on X, I'm just again, you got a player getting a lifetime ban for violating the integrity of the game. So,
Mhm.
A, when we start to look at some of the officials over the last 15 plus years and the referees and the inconsistencies, and more importantly, if this is I'm not even going to say a Curry, LeBron, Embiid, Tatum,
Mhm.
Luca, Joker level player. Let's just say, with respect, it's a Julius Randle, kind of that middle tier NBA where, hey, he's a nice, solid play, a Murray, a nice, solid player.
Right.
Are they getting a lifetime ban here?
It's hard for me to say definitively yes, honestly.
I,
I don't
I, I
know.
don't, I don't, I think you're looking at a player that's cup of coffee in the league,
Most people
averaging
don't know.
what's that?
Most people don't know who he is.
100%, but now we do.
Yeah, it's they made an example, and he
Well,
was an
that's my
easy
whole
name.
point. Is he the fall
He,
guy now? So,
yeah,
and
he was an
listen,
easy
it, it
example.
was
He was an easy
it was
example.
stupid. It was
Yeah,
stupid,
well,
but
yeah, clearly, yeah,
but uh, it's like, again, without belaboring the point, man. These leagues are opening themselves up. I mean, look, obviously, I talk to betting lines on the show on the pods, on BYP. Okay, fine, but it's look, you got 80,000 on a same game parlay, and all of a sudden I'm taking myself out of the game just so my unders can hit. That's going to raise
right.
some red flags. It's not like this player, his caliber, can move the needle. If all of a sudden, we see a $500,000 million bet on Embiid over 13 rebounds, and then there's the bet and it jumps to 16. Now we're talking three more rebounds. That raises the red flag. I don't know. Maybe this kid just like to gamble. Athletes like to gamble, but it's just a lifetime ban.
Yeah,
Um, I,
yeah. That's hard to say if they would levy the same punishment to a all-star or a really good player of that type of caliber. It would be really difficult to definitively say they would. But it's a bigger conversation, right? Q, like it's so easy for any of us to get on this phone
sure.
and betting apps, right? And athletes aren't immune to that, right? And so you mentioned the refs. You better believe he isn't the only player. He is. There are so many refs, like coaches, like who knows how deep this can go, right? And so what this tells me, anytime a story like this comes out, it just tells me he isn't the only one. And it makes you raise your eyes about how certain calls are made or certain choices are made out there during these games, right? And so to me, that's what it signals for me. Okay, you have Jontay Porter, but anybody with any semblance of what's going on here in this betting in the industry knows this isn't the only one. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're looking at these calls, you're talking about integrity of the game. Got to look at the refs now too, because they
But
control.
how do you ban him for life when it's an ongoing investigation,
Mhm.
right?
Example.
That's it's
Yeah.
only the second persons in the league that's been banned for life
Right.
by Silver. The other, obviously and rightfully so, was Donald Sterling.
Right.
Um, I just, I mean, think about this. So the league they determined that Porter gave a better information about his own health status prior to a game and said that another individual known to be an NBA bettor placed an $80,000 bet that Porter would not hit the number set for him in parlays through an online sports book. The bet would have won 1.1 million. Now, he took himself out of the game less than 3 minutes in, claiming illness.
Yeah.
So he screwed himself because none of the stats met the total set in the parlay. The bet
Right.
was frozen, right? And this is what happens now. Everybody wants their money back. All time you're putting in that money to Joe and Tony down the street. You're not seeing it. It's in a bag. Goodbye. But anyway, um, I, I mean, at least play a little bit. Have it close. So I mean, if you're gonna do it, like you can't get a little pregnant. Like, don't be a fool
Yeah.
about it. But
Right.
point
Right.
being, I don't know what this kid was making as far as the league minimum. And then I also read that he was betting when on games when he was in the G League. Bets range from $15 to 22,000. Total wagered was 54,000, generated a payout of 76,000. So he's banned for life over a profit of $21,000. The wagers did not involve any game in which he played, the NBA said. Three of the wagers were multi-game parlays, including a bet where Porter, who was not playing in the game involved, wagered on the Raptors to lose. Now, see,
Mhm.
that's bad juju. Okay, fine. All
Yeah.
three of those
Yeah.
bets were lost. And then you got to think about too with some of these apps, again, they're not going to move the needle for
Right.
a guy that's averaging 4
Right.
points and um, rebounds. I don't know, man. I just think all these sports have opened themselves up to this because of the influx and how prevalent sports betting and gambling. Every single I don't care what it is, the lines are mentioned, the totals are mentioned. Every advertiser is brought to you by X, Y, and Z. Download the app. So people are like, "Oh, this is horrible." I'm not surprised. I just think it's an extremely harsh punishment when John Morant's flashing and brandishing a gun 17 times. Gets what? 40 games? 30 games?
Yeah, we got domestic assault situations in the league, and guys can still play, right? And so it's you open your doors up to whatever it is, you got to be willing to accept what comes with that. Whatever guest you invite in your home, you got to be prepared for who they are and what energy they're bringing into your home. That's
Yep.
just what it bottom line. And now sports betting is such a driving force for even casual sports fans, right? I think that's an entryway for casual sports fans to get in tune with sports, right? You go on social media and there are so many conversations about players not hitting this and costing me money. It's such a driving force when it comes to the conversation with the sports leagues, and it keeps us interested in sports more often than
Oh
not,
yeah.
right? Like, so the sports betting industry is so huge now because it's an entryway for so many people to have conversations. It's it's allowing us to have another incentive to pay attention to a regular season game in January on a Wednesday night, right? Not because we care about what's going on, because we have money on this game, right? And so it's all around us, and that's just what it is right now. You better believe this isn't the only. I mean, even on the college level, this is happening. You better believe it's happening.
Yeah, I have to ask you about this because you do anchoring, you do reporting, you cover the teams just like I did for years. You've gone to press conferences. Did you see the story about the jackass reporter and Caitlin Clark?
I saw it
It was
in
cringe. It was cringeworthy.
very cringe. I was like, is it, when I saw it, you read the headlines on social media, I'm like, is this real? Like, this can't be, like, this has to be a troll job. But he was really serious. Um, and then I saw that he tweeted out a apology column or whatever. I don't know.
He tried to
Yeah,
be cute. He tried to
I
be cute.
tried,
And
tried
here's
to.
here's the problem. This is what I have an issue with, right? I think, and you can be a novice fan of women's sports or women's hoops, but I love what I saw in the tournament. All the players, Reese, Clark, I don't care, black, white, yellow, green, blue, give me a little juice, give me a little oomph for some
Yeah,
of these games. I think she's the greatest collegiate basketball player ever. That's just my opinion. People will go to Pistol Pete marriage. Okay, fine. She's going to just tear it up, man. I mean,
oh yeah,
she's going to have like 25 assists a game. She's a great
yeah,
player, right? So we sit there and everyone tries to marginalize female athletes and female sports. And then sometimes there's that double standard where, well, look what they're posting on IG or Twitter on TikTok and look how they're dressed and look what they're doing and look what they're saying. And then, you get into that fine line. Well, this is why people make those comments. I'm not buying any of that stuff. You should be able to just freely express yourself and be gone with it. People want to question it. There's a way to do it. But then to have a reporter in a press conference when their introductory press conference for this kid to have her moment and for the league again to be illustrated and highlighted and to just have the cringe worthy and then, to make the comments and then almost like double down with it. To me, I would have revoked
yeah,
his credential. And if I'm that outlet that he writes and or is a talking head for, I would have suspended him. I
yeah,
mean, I really because this is this shit and the nonsense that these female and they're waiting there sitting to say, see, this is we told you this is what we deal with. And someone's trying to be slick and someone's trying to be cute. I mean, it was kind of like, come on, man. It's like it's like
yeah,
creepy.
yeah. It's creepy, it's cringe, and it's in a moment like that, Caitlin Clark, number one pick, one of the biggest names in women's basketball right now. This is her moment. This is her day. And now this is what we're talking
And
about.
this asshole takes it away.
And now it's about him. And what's the repercussion? Right? Oh, I put out a apology column.
Come on,
Look,
man.
these outlets have to be taken, these outlets have to be called out too, because you are employing these so-called journalists who are doing these nasty and disgusting things, who aren't doing their job, who have no idea what they're talking about, who don't know the game, who don't really care, but you continue to employ them. So yeah, the journalist is trash for that, but these outlets are to blame as
They're
well.
worse, no doubt. And they got to get caught. And then listen, people are talking about, the money she's making. Look, at the end of the day, when you talk, name, image, likeness, and getting these sponsors, Caitlin Clark, do I think it's a joke she's making 60, 70,000? Of course.
Right.
Go
Yeah,
make
very.
millions. I hope you do.
Yeah,
You earned it. You deserve it. Get all those sponsorships. I mean, it's I can say it like this with boxing, right? The argument for so many years is, hey, let these females go out 3-minute rounds as opposed to 2-minute rounds. Um, and there was arguments for and against. And look, we want to get paid just like the male fighters. I mean, I'm all for it. Like it, I don't who am I to sit there and say what your worth is, what you should go out and earn, and what you deserve, right? Because if someone questions my worth or my, what they believe I should earn for what I do, for whether it's the radio or the broadcasting or the blow by blow or the play by play, I would tell them to go fuck off. Like it's not your business. I know what my worth is. You don't have to tell me what. Don't tell me what you think I should be getting.
right,
Right? I'm not
right.
messing with somebody else's money. So she's going to make her money and rightfully so. But yeah, to make that type of money as a number one draft pick,
Yeah,
it's embarrassing. I mean, that kind of speaks to where the league's at from a financial standpoint, right? When they start to talk about
yeah,
contracts.
yeah. I mean, the hope for me is that maybe this can be a spark. Maybe Caitlin can be a spark for the more eyes, the more attention, the more media attention, right? How about get these huge media deals that the NBA is getting? maybe the WNBA can tap into that as well.
Is
And the
it because
key
they're
is
not making, not to cut you off, Jonathan, they're not making enough money with these TV contracts?
it has to be that. That's, I mean, the TV contracts, merchandise, ticket sales. These ticket sales are now going up for the Indiana Fever, right? And so that's
Yeah,
going to, you know what I mean? And so, um, investors, sponsors, like it all goes into it, right? And so maybe Caitlin can be a spark, but the key is you have to keep it going, right? It cannot because she's only one person, right? She's not a savior. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, it was what Magic and Bird, right? It was
that's
two
it.
guys sort of help push it along. And then what happened in 84, right? MJ came into the league, right? And so you have a Paige Beckers, you have a Juju Watkins, right? You have a couple players who are going to be stars next year in the college game who when they get to the next level,
Yep.
can we maintain that same level of intensity when it comes to media coverage? That's how you keep it going. It has to be a constant cycling of stars and also league expansion. Having a team in Philly, right? Having teams in these different markets can
Yeah,
spark
different markets.
as well. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think the next 2 years, next 3 years are going to be critical for the college game is good. It's
Yep.
going to be healthy. But
Yeah.
how do we carry that momentum over into the WNBA? And I think the next 2 years are critical in facilitating the growth of that league.
60 million they made from ESPN, CBS, Ion, and Amazon per front office sports. The NBA makes 2.7 billion. Again, that is beyond apples and oranges. I can't compare her salary to, you know, uh, an NBA player or a number one draft pick. But
And it's unfortunate because you see it on social media. The conversation is instead of where the women's game is and where it's going, it's a lot of negative energy around Caitlin Clark and the women's game and oh you're new to this now and Caitlin Clark is it's just a lot of conversation. It's a lot of
yeah,
negativity going on instead of okay, how can we facilitate the growth of the women's game,
yeah.
right? And so I'm already begun getting tired of the Caitlin Clark conversation, not because of her, but because of what the conversation has become. Like,
Well, we're not, look what we've talked about, right? Talked about an idiot reporter and, these female athletes not getting paid fair
yeah,
rate wage, right? I
yeah,
know she can make incentives an additional 500,000 with the playoff pool. And look, she's, was on SNL and she was tweaking them.
yeah.
I think it's great. I mean, her NIL valuation is 3.4. Again, that's somebody that came up with that. I hope she gets 30.4 million. What do I care? Go out and get it, right? Get those endorsements, Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, do what you need to do. Reese, do what you need. Have fun with it, man. Go make your dough, go make your bank. But
They got to
it's right
spotlight the other
because
players. They
what's
got to
that?
spotlight the other stars too. That's
Yeah.
another about the other
Yeah,
stars.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right? Because it's just right. It's just a novice comes in all of a sudden, and it's going to be a great, this, that, the other thing. Got about 30 seconds. Can UConn go back to back to back?
Oh man, I don't see why they can't. Obviously, they're going to lose a couple guys or a
Yep,
few guys to the next level, right? So, how do you hit that transfer portal? What recruits do you have coming in? But based off Hurley and that coaching staff and the system that they play and how the college game is now, I don't see why not because they play a style that most teams don't have an answer to. It's
mm,
so precise offensively with what they do. They're intense. I mean, the transfer portal, the names that are coming out into the portal now, you can get a couple guys off the portal and be right back in action.
yep,
So I don't know, but I will say is UConn is now the Villanova of the Jay Wright days. To me, that's how I see Dan Hurley and UConn because they get guys, they develop them, they turn into solid pros. Oh yeah, and they win, and you can
yep.
trust their brand of basketball in the college game. And so for me, UConn men's basketball is the standard for the men's game right now.
Jonathan Marshall at John_Marshall 3. Don't forget, follow him on X, Sports Reporter Anchor at WMUR. Kind enough to join us on Q Talking Little Association, Caitlin Clark, Cringe Reporters, and Little College Hoops as well. We will talk next week, playoffs in full gear, but appreciate a couple moments as always.
Take care, Q.